Greetings and salutations, and thank you for clicking on this video. I do appreciate it. I wanted to put something up and talk about this lovely rendezvous that I have had with Linux Mint 18.1, the Xfce edition. Now, I have fallen in love with this particular distro of Linux. This is what I have been looking for quite some time now, and a lot of what I'm going to say in this video is my opinion, so you can take it or leave it. You can do whatever you want with it, but I had such a pleasant experience installing this today that I really wanted to pass it along. Linux Mint is a very stable and very cool distribution of Linux. It's not perfect, it does have its flaws, but out of all of the Linux Mints that I have tried, this one just seems to be the one that is the most polished. Most of the clients who come to me lately, probably within the last year or two, have asked for Linux Mint. I ordinarily say, well, we'll put you on Linux Mint Cinnamon. That's really a good fit for somebody who's coming from Windows to Linux, and they seem to slide right into that Cinnamon desktop, and so far everybody seems to be really happy with it. I guess about a month ago now, my brother called me up, said, hey, I got this machine. I want to install Linux on it. Will you help me? I said, sure. So I gave him some phone support, and we set up Linux Mint. He wanted to use Linux Mint, and I said, let's do the Xfce edition, because he had been using Linux Lite, and that has Xfce, so I figured it wouldn't be that big of a shock. He likes the Xfce desktop. He's used to it. He's been using it for a couple years now. It went really well when I installed it for him, and I threw it into a virtual machine too, so I could have an install laying around in case he called me with any questions. I'd be able to have a reference. And I've been playing with it in that virtual machine. But today, on a whim, I said, well, let's just see what it does on the old Dell hardware bare metal. Let's just go for broke and install it. And man, am I just blown away by this thing. It works perfectly. It is fast, it is lean, it is mean. I have been able to customize it to do exactly what I want it to do. And here's the really, really cool part. And this is what really put me over the edge about going ahead and dumping Linux Mint 17.3. I can use this on this machine because I have access to the 4.10 kernel. This computer doesn't like the 4.4 series of Ubuntu kernels at all. Just cannot stand them. The audio gets wonky, it won't wake up from sleep, it just doesn't run very well at all. Now it'll run great on 3.13, it ran good on 4.2, it ran really well on 4.10 when I was playing around with Ubuntu GNOME 16.10. I didn't have too much trouble with that. Actually, I don't even think that was on 4.10, was it? That was like 4.8. But it still did pretty good when I was running that particular distribution. And 18.1 gives you access to the pretty much the latest Ubuntu kernels. That's very cool. So I went ahead and upgraded the kernel. I'll talk a little bit about how you do that here in just a little bit. And I also have been able to customize this desktop to look and feel in a very cool way. Then this just fits in with my workflow. So up top here, I've got this great big dock that has all of my applications, plus this weather application on here. I am a sucker for weather apps on the desktop, gang. I'm a bit of a weather nut, and so it's nice to be able to sit down here and just look at this thing, and it tells me what the sky looks like, and I don't even have to look out the window, and the winds and their direction, and you can have it tell all kinds of stuff here. And it's 72 degrees and all that kind of stuff, and the barometer's at 31 inches. Great, I love that. So I stuck that on the end there for fun. I don't know if I'll keep it, but I'd put it there. And what's really cool is I was able to do everything I wanted to do with this desktop without having to download anything. This already comes with the distribution. It's already in there. Now, some people say when I do these kinds of videos that they're like, I want to know how stable it is. I want to know about the performance and what's in the system. It's Linux Mint, gang. It's Ubuntu with buttons. That's what Linux Mint is. So Linux Mint, what they do, for those of you who are not familiar, they take Ubuntu, they use it as a base for the system. They strip out everything that they don't like, and then they add what they like to it. So unlike other distributions of Linux that are based on Ubuntu, where really what they're doing is just throwing a desktop on top of it and saying, okay, this is our distribution of Linux, but it's really Ubuntu with a bunch of tweaks and PPAs attached to it. No, Linux Mint has their own repositories. They just use the Ubuntu-based software, which makes it Ubuntu compatible. That's what it is. But in many ways, it's a very different distribution of Linux. So let's show you what the computer is doing. And we're running HTOP here, so you can see that. Now, right now, it's saying that I'm using about a gig of memory. When you first boot this thing up, it's somewhere between 350 and 400 megabytes. That is not the most lightweight of desktops. I realize that, but it's slightly better than Cinnamon. Cinnamon usually averages about 450, something like that. And then a really stripped Xfce will be about 300 megabytes, maybe 250 on Linux Lite. So this is Xfce with pretty much all the features turned on. So it's using compositing, and it has some other things going on with it, which is fine for this machine. That's not a problem. This machine will run GNOME 3 with no issue, or GNOME 3, whatever you want to call it. And I'm kind of real happy with the performance. It's very zippy. It's probably the best it's run on any distribution of Linux I've tried in a long, long time, actually. So I'm happy with that. That's another thing. Linux Mint 17.3 with the 3.13 kernel, yeah, it was really stable, but it certainly wasn't the fastest thing on the planet. And the 4.4 kernel runs really, really slow. So when I first installed Linux Mint 18 on this, I was not impressed with the performance at all. I ran it for a little while, but it just didn't work right. You know what I mean? So this is the first time that I have visited any of the Linux Mint 18 series on this particular computer in quite some time, and it really works well. Linux Mint has also just smoothed out all of the edges on the Xfce desktop. Those of you who have long memories may remember a couple years ago I was posting YouTube videos that I was doing on a machine that really belonged on the scrap heap. It had a Celeron processor in it, 2 gigs of memory. It was a hacked-together mess, and I was running it just to prove a point. I mean, it could barely play a YouTube video. I mean, that machine was like, ugh. But I was using Xfce on it because it was lightweight and it worked. And I had several issues with Xfce that didn't have anything to do with the computer. It was just like setting up the thing to go to sleep was difficult. The screensaver program was a problem. I think I recall having to swap out the screen locker program for the one from GNOME, the GNOME, whichever. Call it whatever you want, I don't care. And I had to do that. But this one works right out of the box, so it's pretty cool. So what I'd like to do is just take a couple of moments here and kind of go through what I've done to set this thing up and how it works, how it worked out. First of all, let's talk about this dock up top here, because this is a panel. That's all this is. Xfce will let you create as many panels as you like. So if I come down here and come to panel and go to panel preferences, I can choose the panel. The one up top is number 2. And you can make this panel horizontal or vertical if you want to. It kind of looks silly that way, but if you were going to move it to one of the sides, then it makes sense. Let's put that back. And then they have a dash bar. That's vertical too. That's one that's it's going to kind of fill up the side of the screen if you want it to. But I kind of really like it up top. And then you can change the size of the panel here. You can also change the number of rows. Right now I've got it set to 1. But I mean, you could keep going up here and you could have as many rows as you like. You can make a square if you want it to be that. You could have just a square sitting out in the middle of the desktop with a bunch of stuff in it if that's what you wanted to do. And let's see, that's length down there. And we go to appearance. And then you can change transparencies when the mouse is hovering over it, when the mouse isn't hovering over it, that sort of thing. And then this is really cool because this allows you to move things around on the panel. Now, anything that you create a launcher for if it's just an application, it just says launcher. I kind of wish it told you what the launcher was. That would make it a little bit easier to use, but that's okay. It's no big deal. You got separator here. You can put separators in there, and I have done just that. And you can move things around. You can edit your panel right here. So it's actually very, very easy to work with. Now, if I want to move something, let's say that I've got H-top here, and I want to move it. So I right-click on it, and then I go to move, and then I'm going to put it over here by disks. So I just click there, and then it swaps places. So that's how you move things around. No big deal. You want to add something to there? Let's say that we're going to, let's just find an application. Any application will do it. Makes no difference. We've already got Rhythm Box in there. Well, let's say Synaptic Package Manager. That's one that I might actually want up there. So I'm going to click Add to Panel. I can also put a launcher on the desktop. I'm going to tell it that I want it to be on panel 2, and then it shows up. See, it showed up at the end there. That's fine. And I'm just going to move this like this. Of course, this panel is getting so full that it's getting kind of ridiculous at this point. I may take some of this stuff off, but these are all applications I use all the time, so it's kind of nice to have them up there. Then we have the regular panel down here, and it works pretty much exactly the same way. So I've got the whisker menu over here, which is one of the things I really like about Xfce. I've always loved the whisker menu. So easy to work with. And then you can customize this like crazy. You can right-click on it and you get the customization settings. Now the way I have this set up is that if you have a full screen application, these panels will intelligently hide. They will get out of the way. So let's open up a terminal here, and let's say that I maximize my terminal. Well, look at that. It all goes away. Then I can full screen the terminal if I like. This is what I do when I do those tutorial videos. I'll take a terminal and make it big like that. So let's see, how do you increase the font size? How do you increase the font size on the Xfce terminal? It doesn't work the same as the GNOME terminal, does it? I'll have to figure that out later. Anyway, maybe it's not dynamically adjustable. I don't know. I have to go look that up. It's been a long time since I've used the Xfce terminal. And by the way, you can also have this terminal be a drop-down terminal if you want to. So it'll drop down from the top or whatever you want it to do. I'm so used to hitting alternate control and T to get a terminal that I can't use anything that's like a drop-down terminal. I never get used to using it, so that's why I like it this way. I think Manjaro on their Xfce desktop has it set up to drop down. Okay, so that's how that works, panels. Now let me talk a little bit about the theming here. This theming is just mint wide dark. And to set the themes, it's so tweakable on Xfce. It's unbelievable. So let's just go in here to settings. And then the first thing we're going to look at is appearance. And this is where you can choose your theme. I have chosen Mint Wide Dark. They have a ton of themes in here. And it's Xfce, so there's a ton more that you can download if you want to. As far as icons are concerned, I just like the old, gaudy GNOME icons. They make me happy because they're very different looking from one another. One of the problems that I have with the newer ones, you know, like the New Mix and the Arc icons, the circles, and all of those different ones that are out now, they're nice looking, but my problem with them is that I can't tell them one from the other because they're not different enough looking to me. The GNOME set of icons is just real easy to see what you're looking at, so I like that. Here's the first place that you can start tinkering with fonts. You can set up your anti-aliasing there, and then you can choose a basic size for the default font. It's set out of the box to like 9, which is a little too small for me. So I bumped it up to 12, and then you can also change the DPI on the screen, which will give you screen scaling of some sort. And one of the reasons I like the fonts bigger is I don't see too good myself, and it also helps for you guys because not everybody that's watching a YouTube video is watching on a 40-inch monitor with 4K resolution. So if you happen to be watching on a tablet or a small monitor or something like that, this makes it real easy to see. So that's the first place that you set the fonts up. And then the next place that you want to go to get the rest of the look is go to Window Manager. Now you have to choose the theme for the window decorations, which is this part up here up top. And so I've chosen Mint White Dark. And once again, you can adjust the fonts to get that to match up to look right. So that's another place to look for that. And then if we go to desktop settings, well, no, this is what isn't what I want to show you, but that's okay. You got a bunch of compositors available here. Now I'm just using the Xfce Win 4 compositor. That's it. But you can have Compton, you can have Compiz if you wanted to, Metacity. This is what it was set to when I put it in, and it works fine. Doing great. I really like it. So I'm going to leave it just the way it is. Videos play right. Don't have any screen issues, no tearing, no smearing. It's a little, it's not as, it could be just a touch smoother, but it's not too bad. I mean, this is fine for what this machine is. This thing's got internal graphics. It's got an ancient Radeon card. So for it to do this well is okay by me. I don't care. So then they have this setting here, which doesn't work, and I can't show you how it works because it doesn't work because I have modified something with the terminal that kind of doesn't make it happen. But if you turn this on, when you open your terminal, you get a fortune. So Tux will come up and he'll say something funny on your terminal. So what else was I going to show you? Well, let's go to desktop here. Now you can change the size of your desktop icons if you want to. You can adjust the fonts for those. So that is also set to 12. You can play around with that. You can also set your background. And this allows you to just choose the folder where you want to look for your backgrounds. I just have it in Pictures right now. But you can also like choose folders within Pictures, which is something that like on the Cinnamon desktop is not easy to do. But this will let you do that. So you can choose any picture you want. And in the Mate desktop, that desktop you have to go and individually find the picture and add it and all that stuff. So this makes it pretty easy to work with if you want to change pictures. Let's see here. What else do I want to show you? It's pretty much all the normal straight stuff. Now, don't ask me how this does with dual monitor situations. Don't ask me how this does with high DPI. I don't have any of that stuff, okay? I have heard that Xfce is not the best desktop to choose if you're going to be running in an environment like that. So if you're going to be doing that, I would suggest that you run Cinnamon, which is usually better for dealing with dual monitors. Although Xfce will do dual monitors too. I don't know how well it does it. Let's put it that way. Have the standard Mint tools here. This is all the kind of the standard stuff. I'm not going to show that. I've shown it in a lot of other videos. So you got your driver manager here, and you got all this. This is one thing I did want to show you. They have a screensaver application, which is actually up and running when you first turn it on. I just disabled it. This is an updated screensaver than what was in the older versions of Xfce, and it does work better. So if you like screensavers, you're more than welcome to play with it. But if you go to the Power Manager here, there it is, and you open that up, the first thing that you set up is what the buttons do. And then here's where you can set what the machine will do after a certain period of time. And if you've got enough swap space and your machine supports it, you can hibernate the computer if you want to. I just let it suspend. I'm not going to have it shut completely down. But that is kind of cool to have that available to you if for some reason you want it. Most people don't even bother suspending these days, but I do. And I let it go for about an hour, and then I want the screen locked when it comes back up, so you make that setting there. And then for the display here, I've got it set for 30 minutes, and they have a bunch of different things here. And essentially, when my screen goes blank, the display turns off. So I'm not sure why they have 3 different settings for this, but hey, it's okay. No big deal. So if you set 30 minutes here, then this will automatically be 31, and this will be 32. It works. I don't care. This is what did not work in older versions of Xfce. One of the reasons I want to point it out, but works great now. No problem. We have firewall configuration, which is nice to have. So this is something that comes installed with Linux Mint these days. For a while, they had dropped this from the distribution, and I already have it set up with my rules and all that stuff, so we're good to go. And here's kind of where the dark theme sometimes crashes with certain software, because that's like really hard to read. But that's okay. As long as it doesn't do that in a web browser, I'm a happy person. We have session and startup, which allows you to go through and figure out what you want to start when the machine starts up. You get everything here. If you go to Cinnamon, or if you go to Unity, or even the GNOME or GNOME desktop, they hide a lot of this stuff from you. And so be careful in here. You might actually turn off something that you need, but some of this stuff's pretty obvious. Like they have a Mint upload, they have the Mint welcome. You don't need those booting up, so you can get rid of them. I am using the update manager though. Didn't use the update manager on 17.3 because it was kind of useless. But now when you install the update manager, what it does is that it asks you what kind of updates you want. And it used to be that I would tell people to choose the one where it would tell you about system updates. We're talking about base system updates like kernels and things. And then you could elect to do it. These days I just tell people, tell it to update everything. Works fine, no problem. Speaking of kernels, it will grab the next kernel available for you and install it. It won't remove it. And if you want to try out different kernels on your hardware, then you use the kernel tool. So I went to View, and then I went to Linux kernels, and they have this message that comes up here, and this is the kernel manager. So it'll tell you what's installed. And right now I have 4.4.075 installed, because this was installed when I updated the machine. This one was installed, but I removed it. I like to have two kernels around. I skipped 4.8, went to 4.10, and got the latest 4.10 kernel, and that's what this is running on. So I'm very happy about that. You can sit there and play with kernels to your heart content if you want to. Now, if you do that and you want to roll back, then what you have to do is you have to reboot the machine and hold down the Shift key. And then you get to the Grub Boot menu, you choose Advanced Options, and then it will let you choose what kernel to boot up on. Because let's say that you had kernel 4.4 in there and then you wanted to do 4.10. So you install 4.10, and if you wanted to install it, it would be pretty simple. So let me just open this back up real quick and let it load up. So let's say that I wanted to install... Well, right now I've got the latest of both series installed, but let's say that for some reason I want to install this kernel, which is just an older version. I'd click install, and it would ask me whether I really want to do that. You give it a password, bam, it's installed. So now you reboot the computer, and when you reboot the computer, it's going to be on your new kernel, assuming that you're going up in version number. So if you need to roll back, let's say the new kernel doesn't work with your system, then no big deal. Just shut the machine down again, hold down Shift, get to the Grub menu, and then choose Advanced Options, choose the older kernel version, boot off of that, come in here, open up this kernel tool, and then remove the newer kernel, and you won't have any problems, because next time you reboot it won't be there, and it'll be on the older kernel. Kind of nice the way Linux Mint does that. It's very flexible. Now, it's a big deal for Linux Mint to give you access to kernels like this, because for years and years, Linux Mint didn't really want you to even update your kernel. But security issues, the world of Linux is very secure, and one of the reasons is because we get security updates so often. So Linux Mint had to change their tune a little bit on that and give you access to newer kernels, which I'm glad they did. So that is very awesome. Of course, in my case, it works out quite well because I get a really nice Xfce desktop, and then I get a newer kernel as well. So there you go, gang. It's a look around. I think I've pretty much showed you. Let's see if there's anything else. I mean, Whisker menu is awesome. You can customize this menu if you want to. So let's go look at Properties right here. You can choose an icon if you want to. You can have it just show the icon, just text. I like it to actually say menu. A lot of implementations of the Xfce desktop that I have seen lately, what they'll do is they'll just have an icon down here, and it's the same size as these icons. And for me, I like to have a bigger target. That's the menu. Setting up the clock is really super easy. I mean, it's just simple stuff. This is easy to use. So I have it showing time only, and I like to have it, you can change the size of the font to fit your panel, and then your format that you want the time. You like military time, whatever you like, you can find it here. So if I open that up, boom, there it is. I like AM and PM. So if 24-hour stuff. When I worked in radio, in the United States we call that military time because the military is always doing that. And I worked in radio for 20 years. And I want to tell you, radio stations, everything runs on military time. And so I can do that conversion real easy in my head, but I don't want to look at it all day. It reminds me of working in radio stations. I put a desktop switcher down here, and you can have this let's see, you could go in here like this and go to properties. You can tell it that you want, like I want 2 rows, and then you can also change the number of desktops. So it's not dynamic. It's not like Cinnamon or GNOME where you can add more or less. It's pretty much fixed, but you can just go in here and change the settings. So if you want 4, you got 4. You want 2. So I've got 4, and it kind of works the way Unity does, where it's in a square. So we have this desktop, here's desktop, the one below it, here's another empty desktop, and then here's the one with the web page that I was going to show you on it. So don't have a Expo mode, don't have a way of looking at what's on every desktop, but that's okay, I don't need it. Now let me show you something that I thought was really cool. Let's open up a couple of applications. So I'm going to open up Rhythmbox, which is the music player. I really like the fact that Linux Mint has switched to Rhythmbox. For years and years and years and years they were using Banshee. And for a while there, Banshee was a better application, but Rhythmbox is better now. So let's open that up. We'll open up more audio apps. We'll open up Ocean Audio. So there's Ocean Audio running. Now, let's see, what else can I open, man? Let's open up, we can open up Pix, which is Linux Mint's X-App replacement for what they used to ship, and that was Gthumb. It is Gthumb, actually. It's Gthumb with a different layout on it. It's the new Gthumb with the old layout, but that's cool with me. So I've got a bunch of apps. Now let me show you the alternate tab here. Is that cool or what? If you are playing a video, what this does is snaps a picture of it. It doesn't have moving video in it, which is like in Unity they did that, in the Unity desktop for Ubuntu. That's a waste of resources. Why do I need moving video when I use alternate tab? A snapshot's just fine. So that's pretty cool right there. And then, see, just switch to whatever app you want. I do like that. I mean, a lot of desktops now have previews when you hover down here. That's a waste of resources too, as far as I'm concerned. So this is a nice balanced way to do this, I think. And I do like this alternate tab because it doesn't just show you the icon, it shows you what the thing is doing. So it's pretty cool. Alright, so I could go on, but that's about enough, I think. I have rambled on for quite some time about Linux Mint. Everything worked. It all just worked on this machine. And I think I'm going to start telling clients when they ask me what do I think is best. Depending on how this goes over the next few weeks, I'm going to start maybe telling them, you might want to consider Xfce. Because maybe not for somebody who doesn't know anything about computers. Maybe, somebody who's just going to do email and whatever, Cinnamon's going to be fine with them. And if they have the hardware to handle it, well, I'm not going to worry about it. But if I do talk to a lot of people who are a little bit more, they like to tinker a little bit and they want to play with their desktop, I think I'm going to start telling them Xfce for Linux Mint, at least. Yeah, so pretty cool. I don't like Linux Mint's implementation of the Mate desktop at all. If you're going to run the Mate desktop, then I would say to actually download like Ubuntu Mate. It's use that instead of Mint's. Anyway, release notes. These are the release notes for the Xfce edition. There's not a whole lot to talk about. They have some tips and tricks in here. You can come read this if you want to. I am going to have a link to this page. Actually, the page that you're going to go to is this one, which has the release notes and the manual and everything is right here. And then you have all the mirrors where you can download it. So if you want to play with it yourself, this is how you get it. So I will put a link to this page that you're looking at right here in the description to this video. And that's about it, gang. I'm going to hang it up for now. What did I want to tell you? One more thing. I'm going to be doing a big Q&A video coming up here sometime soon. I floated that out on Facebook earlier today. So I'm gathering questions. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, go to easylinux.com and then hit me on the contact page, or go to Facebook and look for the Easy Linux page, and then you can post your question on that particular post that I put up. It will be real easy to find. It's very recent. And between one of those two, send me a message if you've got any questions you'd like me to answer in a Q&A video. Keep them short and sweet. Don't get too complicated, and I'm really not going to be able to get into a bunch of how-tos, but if you just have general questions about Linux or me or whatever, send them to me. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do a big Q&A video coming up. So check out Easy Linux on the web, check out Easy Linux on Facebook, and also check out Easy Linux at freedompenguin.com, because I write a lot of articles there. I haven't put one up in a while. I need to do so, but there's a bunch of cool stuff to read from contributors such as myself. All right, gang, thanks for watching. We will do it again soon.